Hey, 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 welcome to Studio Classroom on the Air. Your English is going to improve today. My name is Gabe. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever been lost in a foreign country? It kind of happened to my wife and I in Berlin, Germany. We needed to find our way back from the Berlin Wall to the main station, but we could not read the German on the signs in the station. And because we didn't have much time, we wanted to make sure we didn't get on the wrong train, but we needed to act fast. That's why you should learn a bit of the language of the places you travel to. Well, today we are continuing with a story that also took place in Berlin, Germany, called Kindness from a Stranger. It's also a true story written by Studio Classroom's very own Manya Kramer. She actually got on the wrong train. Now, what would you do in a situation like that? Friends, let's find out what she did.
Kindness from a stranger. I looked around the nearly empty car. I saw a young woman sitting quietly by the window and approached her. "Hi, do you speak English? I'm lost. Can you help me?" I asked. The woman understood. She told me how to return to where I had first gotten on the train. But my anxious mind couldn't follow her instructions. Without thinking, I blurted out, "Can you come with me?" Her face froze at my ridiculous request. After a long second of hesitation, she agreed to help me.
And friends, we're very happy to have Manya Kramer, the author of this very exciting lesson, back in the studio with us. Thank you, Manya, for joining us.
Well, I'm very glad to be here.
And it's very cool that you're giving us more details about your exciting, although nerve-wracking time getting lost in Berlin, Germany. So this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Well, from my perspective, whenever scary things like that happen later on, they always make a good story, which is definitely true in your situation.
Yes.
That's right.
I can talk about it now with a smile, but I was definitely not smiling in the moment.
Okay, well, friends, at the end of yesterday's lesson, of course, Manya had gotten on the wrong train. What was she going to do? It was 2 o'clock in the morning. We read here, "I looked around the nearly empty car." So that means there are very few people on that car. But before we continue on, let's just take a quick look at that word car, because it's used here not to talk about a car like a Mercedes-Benz that you drive down the road, but it's actually a part of a train. Now, this could mean a vehicle designed to move on rails, so anything that's a part of a train could be a car. But car could actually be another kind of vehicle as well, like an elevator. Some people call that an elevator car, the thing that people actually stand inside. Or if you see a blimp, Feichuan, in the air, where passengers are, that's also called the car of the blimp.
That's right. Or, have you ever been to Maokong?
Yes.
I love Maokong, and I love going up the cable car. That's another type of car. And so you could say, well, we will wait for the glass bottom car, the ones that are glass on the bottom. Those are pretty fun to ride in.
That's right. But of course, Manya is on this train that is nearly empty, this nearly empty car. I saw a young woman sitting quietly by the window and approached her. Now, we approach people for different reasons. Manya, had you ever approached a stranger before to ask for help in some way?
I have, but usually it's to ask for directions. And in this case, I was doing the same, but the situation was very different.
Right, yeah. How was it different? How did you feel this time? How was it different?
Well, I was terrified because I was in a foreign country. I didn't speak the language. I didn't have a phone on me. I didn't really have anything. I was very unprepared. So I was very nervous.
A very scary situation indeed. Okay, so what happened? Well, Manya wrote some words here in our lesson, but I think, is this exactly what you said, Manya? "Hi, do you speak English? I'm lost. Can you help me?" Is that what you said in those moments?
Just about, except I said it more like, "Hi, I'm lost. I don't speak English. Can you please help me?" It was more like that.
So you were definitely in panic mode at this point in time.
Yes.
Yes, and you're kind of, what's going to happen? This is a pretty scary situation. No phone. I remember a couple years ago, I actually got lost in Taiwan and I didn't have a phone, and I couldn't speak any Chinese at the time, and it was very, very scary. So I could understand how scary it must have been for you at 2 a.m.
It's true, being in a different country can be scary, especially in these types of situations. And we continue here. The woman understood. I'm sure she understood in many ways. She understood Manya's panic as well as English. She told me how to return where I had first gotten on the train. But we read, my anxious mind couldn't follow her instructions. So what happened? Without thinking, I blurted out, can you come with me?
Did you mean to ask her to come with you?
No, that's why I blurted it out, because I wasn't thinking. If I was thinking, I probably would not ask a stranger to come with me, but I clearly wasn't thinking.
That's what happened. Friends, that's a fun phrase to know, to blurt out something. That means to say something suddenly, often without thinking, because you're nervous or excited or anxious.
That's right. For example, I was talking with my friends trying to practice my Chinese, and all of a sudden I blurted out, 你很没礼貌. I didn't mean to say that, it just kind of came out.
That's really funny. Okay, well, Manya, you said this woman's face froze at your ridiculous request. Can you give us a little demonstration of what her face might have looked like?
Well, she pretty much went like... Just stared at me.
Oh.
And then I was waiting anxiously for her response.
Right.
And then finally she said, okay.
Okay. Well, we're going to find out what happens later on in our lesson. But right now it's time for us to go to the Info Cloud.
Welcome to Info Cloud, friends. It's always good to get something off your chest or have a heart-to-heart with a close friend.
To get something off your chest means to say something that is bothering you or confess something to another person.
I have to get this off my chest. Your comment hurt my feelings.
You can get something off your chest by talking to the person who upset you, but a heart-to-heart is with a talk with someone you are close to.
To have a heart-to-heart means having a sincere and deep conversation.
Jane and her mom had a heart-to-heart before Jane's wedding.
Heart-to-hearts don't always happen because we keep our feelings to ourselves. But if you show how you feel, we have a different expression.
We'd say you wear your heart on your sleeve. I can't hide how I feel. I always wear my heart on my sleeve.
The origin of this phrase is unclear. It may have come from medieval practices of knights wearing the handkerchief of a lady on their arms.
It may also be from a line in the Shakespearean play Othello.
Our hearts are always full of some kind of emotion. It's no wonder there are many English expressions about the heart.
Welcome back to Studio Classroom. Today we're learning with a lesson by Manya Kramer, one of our teachers or writers here at Studio Classroom. It's called Kindness from a Stranger. So she was on a train in Berlin late at night or in the early hours of the morning, but it was wrong. It was heading in the wrong direction. She asked someone for help, but what did this person do? How is this person going to help Manya? Let's continue with our lesson to find out right now.
Kindness from a stranger. On the journey back to my original train station, she and I chatted. I told her about my mission trip. Eventually, I shared about my dad's passing. With a look of surprise, she told me that she had lost her dad a year ago. We shared our life stories, our heartaches, and our hopes for the future. At my stop, she thanked me for sharing so much with her. She also told me how I had encouraged her. I couldn't believe this stranger with the big heart was thanking me. I gave her a hug and thanked her for her incredible kindness.
We continue with Manya's story here. She wrote, "On the journey back to my original train station, she and I chatted. I told her about my mission trip. Eventually, I shared about my dad's passing. And with a look of surprise, she told me that she had lost her dad a year ago." Now, before we continue, there are a couple words just in those sentences that kind of mean the same thing. But Manya is a creative writer, and she has chosen to talk about them in different ways, okay? Yesterday, we learned that Manya's dad passed away. She says here about her dad's passing, and that this person had lost her dad a year ago. Passing, lost. Those are different ways to talk about how someone has died.
That's right. And of course, when you talk about how one's loved one passed away, past is the verb form, right? And passing is a noun. For example, my mom, now this is just an example, okay? This hasn't actually happened. But my mom had a very difficult time with her mom's passing. So her mom passed away, she lost her mom, and it was a very difficult time.
And something else about that word pass that you should know, friends, it is used in different ways, okay? So you could say that someone passed on. That's the same thing as someone passing away. But if someone has passed out, that's a very different meaning. That means they have fainted, 昏倒. Okay, so be sure to use the right phrase here. But we read on here, so this person had lost her dad a year ago. We read, we shared our life stories. Now, I'm just curious, Manya, how much time did you actually have with this person to share your life stories?
Well, we had an hour because at 2 o'clock in the morning, the train only comes every hour.
Oh, man.
So when we got off the train we were on to wait for the next train that would take us in the right direction, it took 1 hour.
Oh, okay. And then you were on the train together.
Yes.
For how long?
For probably 25 minutes, so another
Okay.
half an hour.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
so you guys probably were together for an hour and a half, maybe even almost 2 hours.
Just about.
Oh, wow. So you had time to share life stories.
So, friends, this really is kindness from a stranger. At 2 in the morning, to be willing to spend, an hour or two with somebody to help them. All right, well, before we move on, let's talk a little more about that phrase, life story. Those two words, life story. This is usually the important things or details that shape someone's life. And because it's talking about someone's life, you really can't talk about your life story in just a short amount of time. So, Rebecca, would it be reasonable for me to ask you to share your life story with us here at Studio Classroom?
Well, you could ask me to share a part of my life story because there are so many different things that have happened over my life that have shaped me and have made me who I am today. But I know that just one small little part of my life story happened when I was about 24 years old, in my early 20s. I had gone through, a very difficult period of time and wasn't really talking to my parents for a period just because of a lot of things that have happened. But, during that period of time, God was just amazing. He showed up and I came to know God at a much, much, much deeper level. And I look back and I'm so thankful for that period of time because God became real.
And friends, that took Rebecca about 30 seconds or 45 seconds, but that's just a little bit of her life story. But thank you for sharing that important part of your life story. And Manya, I have a question for you. Are you usually this open with somebody, like with a stranger? Are you usually a pretty open person?
Well, I don't usually go around sharing my life story with people, but I felt like the situation called for that because we had so much time to spend together and she showed me so much kindness in that moment. I felt like it was a very comfortable place to tell her my life story.
Yeah, and you wrote that she was encouraged by you. And are you still surprised that you encouraged her in that moment?
Yes, very. It still boggles my mind that I could have encouraged her with my story.
And then at the end, you said that you gave her a big hug and thanked her for her incredible kindness. Do you usually hug strangers?
No, I usually don't.
But I think that's one of the benefits or things that happens when you're willing to be open and vulnerable with people and kind yourself, Manya. Thank you again so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And friends, right now it is time for us to end with a
Review skit.
Hey, where have you been? Do you know how late it is?
Very late?
Our last night here, and you just disappear.
Well, I didn't want to pass up the chance to explore Berlin. It's our last night. And you said we could do what we pleased.
Well, that didn't mean staying out all night.
I didn't plan to stay out this late.
So, what happened?
Well, I went around the city visiting numerous attractions, and when exhaustion set in, I checked my watch. It was 2 o'clock in the morning.
But that was hours ago.
Well, as I walked to a subway station, I started thinking about my dad. He passed away a few months ago, and today is his birthday, and I can't celebrate with him.
And
suddenly, I heard train wheels screeching to a halt, and I dashed onto the train. Phew!
What a relief!
I know, but then the panic. The train was headed in the wrong direction.
So what did you do?
I asked a woman for help.
And then?
She told me what to do, but I was too anxious to follow instructions. So I blurted out, "Can you come with me?"
That was a ridiculous request.
I know, but after some hesitation, she agreed. On the journey back to my original station, I told her all about our mission trip.
I see.
And about my dad's passing. And guess what? She had also lost her dad.
So you shared life stories?
Yes, and our heartaches and our hopes. And when we came to my stop, she thanked me.
She thanked you?
Yes, I had encouraged her.
Aw, that's so touching. But you're still in big trouble.
Really?
Just kidding. Now, we should really go get some sleep.
Well, that was a great and touching lesson, wasn't it? Now, here's a question for you to think about. Who do you share your life story with? Or who do you trust enough to share parts of your life story with? You know, there are different places in the Bible that say to make the most of every opportunity. And you never know who you might be able to bless or encourage when you open a conversation like that. Thank you for joining us today. We have a lesson about music next time right here on Studio Classroom.